Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Today's podcast is sponsored by SLI Systems, providers of intelligent site search and navigation solutions. Learn more at sli-systems.com and listen to their interviews at ecommercepodcast.com.
Your path to e-commerce success starts right here. You're listening to Practical E-commerce, the podcast for e-commerce results.
Welcome back to another Practical E-commerce podcast. My name is Brian Getting, and this is our December 2006 interview. And this month we've got Michael A. Cox had a chance to speak with Craig Newmark of Craigslist, which is, if you don't know Craigslist, you're probably not living on the West Coast. But also Craigslist has expanded basically nationwide, but it's been a really big sort of resource in the Bay Area and all along the West Coast for quite a long time now. So this, to me, is a really cool interview with, once again, Craig Newmark of Craigslist. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Michael A. Cox.
We're talking with Craig of Craigslist. I suppose that every time that you hear about a name of a business that has somebody's name in it, you always wonder if there really is a Craig, and obviously there is. So tell us about Craig a little bit first.
Basically, I'm just the kind of guy you read about, who wore a plastic pocket protector in high school, thick black was taped together, the whole cliche. I've outgrown that, but I remember what it was about. And that means, for example, I take things literally. And if I commit to something, I really, really try hard to follow through.
So how long ago was it you committed to this thing that's called Craigslist now? And I guess, was it always called Craigslist?
Well, I started about 11 and a half years ago, and for the first several months, there was no name. It didn't need one. I was using a simple CC list, but and I had to go to a listserv, I had to give it a name. I was going to call it at San Francisco events, and people who were smarter than me told me they already call it Craigslist. Keep it that. It's personal and quirky.
And as the rest, as they say, is history. What was was there a business plan, or was there any of that formal sort of stuff that you did earlier on, or was it just a sort of bootleg seat of the pants thing?
It was all a hobby. We don't really have a business plan, don't use it. We just are fairly experienced and follow our instincts. In particular, Jim Buckmaster, who's the guy who really runs things, he has really good managerial instincts. I don't, which is why Jim is CEO and I'm working as customer service rep.
And of course, you still have that name, that founder thing after your name. When did Jim come on board with you?
In early 2000.
Yeah. What back in those early days again? What was the basic aim? Was it, if I understand it, Craig, it looked like it was simply a public service thing that you wanted to do, right?
That was the idea back then, and it's the idea now.
Yeah. Now, did you have early on, even though you had that sort of public service thing in mind, was there a revenue stream that you recognized that could sort of keep the wolf away from the door in those days?
Nothing like that. First few years was just as a hobby, and then the time came around when I tried doing things with volunteers, but that failed.
Now, volunteers are wonderful people, but they're not the easiest thing in the world to manage, are they?
Well, that does happen that way.
When was it that you that you introduced the idea of profit to the Craigslist enterprise?
I guess in some form, maybe it was when we made the company, well, the organization into a real company, and that was in early '99.
And what was the impetus that took you in that direction?
Well, after roughly a year of trying to do it with volunteers, some folks helped me get out of denial and helped me get it that I had to get serious, and that means making it a real company.
And was it a matter of raising capital and sort of doing that dreaded plan that you had sort of avoided up to that point?
Mostly, it was just a matter of just having enough revenue to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm. So what? Obviously, you're still pretty much a one-man operation, even though you were starting to generate revenue, so you could have hired help. What was your strategy early on to drive more traffic and to generate those revenues?
Back then, we didn't have a strategy. We just continued doing what we were doing, trying to provide good customer service and plugging away, and that worked. Now,
were you still fairly localized then in terms of the Bay Area, or had you at that point begun to have some modules in other parts of the country?
That was still strictly San Francisco Bay Area. Jim added the first cities outside of the Bay Area in mid 2000.
Were you beginning to get, obviously, even though you were only serving the Bay Area, you were seen elsewhere. Were other people inquiring as to how they might become part of Craigslist, or whether or not the Craigslist thing could be available in their market?
People do ask that frequently, even now. People suggest new cities. Sometimes people want to, let's say, run operations in their neighborhood, although we do have to tell people that basically the people who use our site are the people who run the site. Here we provide infrastructure and do some of the heavier forms of customer service.
Aha. Now, one of the first questions when I told my wife, for example, that I was going to talk to you, she said, "Find out how they make their money." It's difficult for most people looking at your site to understand the revenue stream. Where does Craigslist derive its revenue?
Well, the principle is based on what people told me 5 or 6 years ago. I talked to a lot of people. They said charge people who are otherwise paying more money for less effective ads. Specifically, we were told to charge job posters for help wanted ads. And we were told that we should charge for real estate postings. In practice, we charge for help wanted ads in 7 cities, and for apartment rental listings only in New York. Mm-hmm. Enough the people that we charge are the people who asked us to charge them.
That was going to be my next question: was why only specific markets? Why not in general? So it's a matter of what the market is asking for.
Kind of. One other factor, for example, are there known problems with the market that mature? Are those city sites being hit by postings which, well, maybe scams or something like that? If that does happen out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And would you mind sharing with us the level to which those revenues have risen?
Nah, we just don't talk about that.
Okay.
I only have a vague idea anyway.
I understand. You just mentioned something that as a user of your site, we've hired a number of people by using Craigslist to advertise for employees. You mentioned guarding against scams and things. Has that been an issue for you? Probably more so in the past few years. People posting scams.
It's become more of a problem if you include other related problems. For example, we see people doing what we call spamvertising, posting hundreds or thousands of ads of a dubious nature. Mm-hmm. That's a real problem right there. And
what are you able to do, if anything, to to thwart those kinds of sieges, if you will?
Well, what we do is when we see this happening, we do some blocking. If they persist, then I start talking, let's say, to their ISP or their hosting service, and just have the hosting service or whatever talk to them. And if talking fails, well, they usually get unhosted or whatever. They get their accounts canceled.
Right. Is there any change in in what I guess most of us refer to as the minimalist format for Craigslist? Are there any changes in the way Craigslist looks and functions that you have in mind?
Nothing really. We've seen some suggestions, one good redesign from some design people, but people are pretty happy with the way we have things. I asked around, and the only people who got excited about the redesign were people in the design community.
Well, I was going to. That's an interesting point, and it's one that I talk about often. As a matter of fact, a lot of times websites and advertising in general, for that matter, in magazines, newspapers, tend to be over-designed, and they sort of forget the user. It appears to me as though the user's the first thing in your mind, and the simple approach has been successful for you.
I'm not sure I understood that question. You'll forgive me.
My point is that there's a point where design it really is only in the interest of the designer and not in the interest of the user.
Yeah, and I've been pretty sensitive to that because I realize I have no design skills. All I know how to do is keep it simple.
Mm-hmm. What I guess that begs the question: what exactly are Craig's skills?
Well, I used to be technical and a pretty good programmer, but now we have a team full of programmers who are all better than I was. Now I just focus on customer service, doing some of the related forensics, plugging away. Maybe my real skill right now is just persistence and commitment.
Obviously, you stay in touch with what's happening on the internet and what's happening on the web and the general arena. I'd be interested in your impressions on the advancement of the web, web version 2, all of the new things that we're hearing about. What do you think about the web, the way it stands now, and where it might be going?
The web right now does a great deal of things for people. We are seeing new technologies come online, some of which sound very exciting, some of which will help us out, some of which won't really do very much. That web technology on phones will be a very, very big deal.
What are the things that won't do very much for us in your estimation?
I don't know.
What are the things other than the phone technology that might be very useful that you see in the pipeline?
Well, I think there are small things that will help us out. For example, I'm helping a guy out a little bit trying to use net technology, mostly delivered over cell phones, to help find a parking place when you need one.
That sounds like something that could be very, very popular.
Bigger side, there's stuff like, like right now, people are using the net to help expose problems with crooked voting machines, and people are trying to take measures to prevent them from being a real problem. It used to be when the powerful wanted to do something crooked, you couldn't do much about it, but if a lot of people get together over the net, then maybe you can do something about it.
Is it your opinion that that there is still a security problem on the internet?
Oh, there are many different security problems. A lot depends on what system you're running on your desktop or notebook. For example, we're pretty paranoid about security, so our preference is to run either Linux machines or Macs.
I see. And would that be an advice to general users to use that architecture as opposed to say Windows or one of the others?
Well, the bottom line is that if you're serious, you do use something that's reasonably secure and reliable. And I don't know, I've just been burned by Windows too many times over and over again. Mm-hmm. Maybe they'll fix it with Vista. I don't know.
What are there any additions in terms of services that Craigslist is might offer down the road that you're thinking about?
I can't think of much. Mostly we just do slow incremental growth. We do, for example, need to offer multiple language support, and we do need to do something about the housing maps idea, where we use Google or Yahoo Maps to help locate, say, garage sales or available apartments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is what stands in the way of that being facilitated effectively?
It's often just time. First things first, for example, we have to keep the site fast, mm-hmm. and that's kind of hard at times.
Fast meaning that the site works quickly when the user is there, not getting bogged down by traffic and that sort of thing?
All of the above.
All of the above. Let's go back to security again for a minute. What are in your experience as a programmer and as operating Craigslist? What are some of the things that a typical e-commerce merchant or operator could do on a day-to-day basis that might help their security situation?
Well, what we do all our servers are running Linux, and we keep up to date with the occasional patches and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That's a burden, but nothing like trying to keep a Windows server patched. On the desktops, both within the company but also within your clients, we do recommend the Firefox browser, which is fixed pretty on a reliable basis. And when they have to update the browser, they make it fairly painless.
If you were going to give a little advice to somebody who's just entering the internet business arena, as you did a few years ago, what would you tell them today?
Pretty much some of the principles which work for us. Basically, provide really good customer service. Just don't give it lip service, and try to treat other people like you want to be treated, which is, I guess, another way of saying provide good customer service.
Okay. Is there anything about the internet that you're really unhappy with, or really would like to change tomorrow if you were appointed in a position to do so?
Basically, people of goodwill, particularly in the PR business, do need to get together and find a way of dealing with the really unethical PR people, and that would help everyone out.
Now, what can you give us a little explanation of that?
There are PR firms who do lots of dirty tricks, particularly political ones.
I see.
There are people who do things like swift boating, and then the PR people who work with lobbyists to fight fairness on the internet. Mm-hmm. For example, there's a number of fake grassroots-looking sites opposing internet neutrality.
Right.
And when you dig into them, you find that they're all fronts for lobbyists and big telecoms. And it's okay for them to present their positions honestly, but this is the opposite of honesty.
Which leads me to another question. Then I've noticed in looking at your site and some of the stuff on the FAQ page, you're quite active in some charities and foundations and things like that. Would you tell us about that a little bit?
Oh, I'm involved in a handful of things. We do have our own foundation, although there my role is just to be the glamorous figurehead. Foundation focuses on helping other nonprofits get smarter, for example, about use of technology, or even just being able to make an elevator pitch, because sometimes you have to be able to articulate what you're about in a few seconds. And if you can't do that, people will start, rather they'll stop listening.
Just drift away.
In other regards, I'm very interested in the future of journalism and media, since a free, energetic press is necessary to keep a democracy alive.
Right.
So I'm involved in a pretty half-assed way in terms of supporting various journalism efforts.
And that's going to wrap it up for this podcast. We want to extend a thank you to Michael A. Cox for a great interview there, and of course to Craig Newmark of Craigslist.com. Also, take a look at our website at www.practicalecommerce.com. We've got quite a few things going on for the new year, so keep an eye on that website for the next month or so. Come January 1st, we will have some exciting new changes for people.